to Friday afternoon meditation at the Newport Richey Library. This week I'm going to talk about mindfulness of the body. There are 4 foundations of mindfulness: mindfulness of thinking, mindfulness of thought, mindfulness of body, and it's called mindfulness of dharmas. But what it really is mindfulness of all of the preconceived notions that we may or may not be aware of that kind of filter our experience. So today we're going to talk about mindfulness of the body. I should also let you know, some of you may remember, I had a little trouble with my left side hearing aid last week. It's in the shop. Yeah. It's a great mindfulness exercise, mindfulness of the body exercise, because noticing the tension in my body when I turned it on and it didn't do anything. When I changed the battery and it didn't do anything. When I thought, how am I going to navigate walking around? And I'm fine, by the way. And it's just right here. And in my shoulders a little bit. And then this morning, I have meditation group, but I can't really hear on my left. So I had a whole, the thought stream attached a whole narrative to that, which was irrelevant to what it actually is real. So just thought I'd let you know. If I go, that's the way it is. Also, I brought with me instructions for mindfulness meditation over here for you to practice at home. I also have a sign-up sheet if you want to leave your name and email address. Please do leave your name if you leave your email address. I have a bunch of email addresses and I don't know who any of them are. I put out a newsletter and also announcements about these sessions around town. And I have the hat if you feel like making a donation, which is not requested or required. So, and greetings to the folks watching wherever you may be. Meditation is a body-centered experience. There's a lot of one friend calls it flotsam and jetsam, up here. And it's usually not in the present moment. It's usually yesterday rehashing or tomorrow expecting, or playing the greatest hits of the songs you never liked anyway. The body is a physical object. It cannot leave the present moment. And we're training ourselves to be present with what's happening right now without the normal filters that we may or may not be aware of, which I'll talk about down the road. So with that, why don't we begin? So I invite you to find a meditation posture that works for you. Just consciously coming into whatever posture that is. And just letting your body relax into it. When you consciously assume a posture, you're letting your body and psyche know that you're entering into something. And a posture is one that is comfortable, in which you can be alert and relaxed at the same time. And gently close your eyes. And I invite you to notice the sensations of the weight of your body resting on the cushion or the chair or whatever you're sitting on. Or if you're lying down, what that feels like on your body, the contact points. Just noticing the bodily sensations of being here and now in this moment. Maybe noticing the ambient temperature of the room, what your clothes feel like against your skin. An invitation to be present with your body here and now. Notice the sensations of the bottoms of your feet resting on the floor, the weight of gravity, just letting your feet rest on the floor. And the sensations of your hands in your lap. What does that feel like on your hands and on your legs? Just noticing what the body is experiencing. Not so much from the control tower of the head, but sinking down into the body. Just to notice. I invite you to take a few slow, deep breaths, about 3/4. And long, slow exhale. Noticing the body sensations associated with breathing. The sensations of the chest expanding, and maybe the back and shoulders straightening up a little bit on the in breath. The sensations of the body settling and contracting on the exhale. Another long, slow, deep breath. And as you exhale, just let the body relax. If you're holding tension in your shoulders, let your shoulders fall. Letting your breathing return to normal. And on the out breath, just continuing to notice Any place where you have tension or tightness. Just letting go of that and relaxing if you can. And if you can't, just noticing it with some gentleness, some space around it. And letting your attention focus on the sensations of the body breathing in and out. Noticing your belly expanding, your chest rising, the sensations of the air moving in and out of your nose. Just letting your attention rest on the breath. And when your mind wanders off in thought, just notice and come back and start again. As you breathe in and out, on the in breath, just say quietly to yourself, softly, here. And on the out breath, say, now. And remembering there are no distractions or interruptions, just part of the experience of here and now, noticing. Just breathing in here in this moment and breathing out now. And as we come towards the end of this sitting, I invite you to come calmly and settled into your body, to your awareness of the body, sitting in the present moment. May it be that the benefits from this more settled awareness helps us navigate around our day with kindness, compassion, goodwill. May it be that the benefits of this practice help us remember in difficult or tense moments, just come into the body and notice where the stress and the tension is. And meet this with kindness. I see you, Mara. May the benefits of this practice be of benefit to all beings everywhere. May all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings be at ease and at peace. Thank you for your practice. We had a phone. It's a good thing. In some of the monasteries where they meditate all day, they have somebody walk around with a little bell, not like this one, and ring it at random intervals. It's called the mindfulness bell. For those of, these are people who meditate for years, right? Walking, sitting meditation, eat, meditate some more, work around the monastery. The mind wanders off. So they have a guy walking around or a nun walking around with a little bell and ringing it at random intervals so that people can be reminded, oh, I've gone off someplace and come back. So if a phone rings or a child makes noise, or my last meditation retreat, there's a mockingbird outside the window, it helps to think of it as a mindfulness bell. So, as I said before, today we're talking about mindfulness of the body. There are 4 foundations of mindfulness. Mindfulness of thinking, mindfulness of feeling tones, not the feeling and the narrative we attach to it, but the tone of it, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Mindfulness of the body, and mindfulness of preconceived notions. The body is actually where we experience our lives. It all comes in some sort of sensory perception. We may or may not notice it. And then the mind is where we interpret that. Meditating. In my neighborhood, There's a guy that has a lawn service who runs his edger at 8:30 in the morning. I think on Mondays or Tuesdays. I'm meditating. The first thing I notice after the sound is a little bit of tension, like right here. My shoulders want to like pull it a little bit. All right. The body is where we first experience things. The mind is where we then decide what that is. And there's a reason why the Buddha taught mindfulness of the body. It's one of the four foundations of mindfulness. Because the body is where we start. The body is the receptacle of our experience. People think they're experiencing things with the mind, but if the body isn't taking in the stimulus, and it goes both ways. You have a thought, and say it agitates you a little bit. There's a physical sensation that lets you know you're agitated. You have another thought, it makes you happy. There's a physical sensation that goes along with that too. So I'm going to ask a question, and your mind is probably going to go to the standard knee-jerk answer we always give. I'm going to ask a question after that. How are you? And how do you know? We feel things first as sensations. For example, something happened last night. Text came in from somebody that kind of like annoyed me a little bit. And one of the things I noticed is that my shoulders rose a little bit. If I'm angry, my whole body, like it's like my body wants to fold me in half to like protect me. I get that right here. If I'm sad, right here in the pit of my stomach. If I'm happy, it feels like my whole body is lighter. Anybody here go to concerts, live music, like music, just enjoy music, like to dance? Your body is moving to the environment around you, and you're letting it. And mindfulness practice, which I recommend for 20 minutes a day, and I have some instructions over there, or you can always call me if you need help, helps us notice when our body is having an experience and when we're feeling agitated or whatever, helps us notice what the physical experience of that is, and then come back to our breathing, because the body is always in the present moment. Notice where we're tense, maybe let our shoulders drop a little bit, let the belly hang. We tighten the belly. It's another thing we do, we tighten the belly. Mindfulness helps us notice the physical experience of our feelings. And then we can relax a little bit. Not to make it go away, because I believe we have to embrace our experience, even if it's hard, but to make it more manageable. Mindfulness helps us notice the physical sensations and notice how we're feeling, and helps us notice what narrative we have attached to that. I turned on my hearing aid the other morning. If you wear hearing aids, you can turn them on, they make a tone. Dun, 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 dun. That's what mine do. My left one went, this is not okay. I felt that like in my back, oddly. And a little tension about, oh, this is going to be money. Not really, not that much. And the narrative of some version of, oh my God, I don't want this. Okay. Now, if I lean into the narrative of, oh my God, I don't want this, I'm just going to get more tense, and my body is going to get more tense. If I come back to my body and take a deep breath, it's easy for me to remember I could never hear that well on my left anyway, even with hearing aids. And I'm okay. I'm just a little weirded out. Mindfulness of the body helps us like step away from attaching our feelings as good or bad. I'm just having this like present moment experience. And I'm sitting here in meditation and just watching the drama of my mind or the comedy. You know, it's like theater of the absurd sometimes. Sometimes, if you ever watch a glass of soda water, the bubbles pop off the side at random, just like random. My mind, it's like, well, thoughts are like that. They just like pop off. And every now and then one makes, one triggers some sensation in my body. And that's why we focus on the breathing, because the breathing is always happening now. The mind drifts in time and space. The body is always in the present moment. Where 99.9 times out of 100, nothing is actually happening. I'm worrying about something. A little concerned about my stepson right now. He's okay, but a little concerned. But nothing is actually happening. I'm just like have this thing going on up here. I think there's a reason why there's this gesture for crazy, because it's like a hamster wheel. I wrote in a poem one time about this. It's not like this train is going somewhere any more than the rain is going somewhere. Which brings me to a Mary Oliver poem. My introduction to poetry was Mary Oliver. I never really appreciated it before her. And when somebody read me a Mary Oliver poem, not this one, I'll get to that one another time, I didn't read or write anything but poetry for 3 months. And I was in grad school. So, Mary Oliver, this is Roses, Late Summer. What happens to the leaves after they turn red and golden and fall away? What happens to the singing birds when they can't sing any longer? What happens to the quick wings? Do you think there is any personal heaven for any of us? Do you think anyone, the other side of that darkness, will call to us, meaning us? Beyond the trees, the foxes keep teaching their children to live in the valley, so they never seem to vanish. They're always there in the blossom of light that stands up every morning in the dark sky. And over one more set of hills along the sea, the last roses have opened their factories of sweetness and are giving it back to the world. If I had another life, I would want to spend it all in some unstinting happiness. I would be a fox or a tree full of waving branches. I wouldn't mind being a rose in a field full of roses. Fear has not yet occurred to them. Reason they have not yet thought of. Neither do they ask how long they must be roses, and then what, or any other foolish question. The body doesn't ponder any of this stuff. The body lets me know I need lunch. The body doesn't go to, well, what am I going to have for lunch? I'm not sure we have enough stuff in the house. I need to go to the store, and I hope that thing hasn't spoiled yet. Right? The body does not ruminate about something that happened yesterday. Everything begins in the body. And then we put a label on it. And then the mind is where we take whatever sensation that is, and then we massage it, and we morph it around, and we like play with it like a piece of clay. We try to turn it into something other than what it is sometimes, or we turn it into something that'll never go away, even though it will. But the body isn't doing any of that. The body is where we find calm, even in pain. And I'll talk about that. We can the mind is where we manipulate reality into something that we prefer. I'll talk about that, when I talk about mindfulness of dharmas. The body just bees with what is. There was a guy I knew about who gave Dharma talks, Buddhist teacher. Found out he had Alzheimer's. It's a very fraught thing to find out. He still seemed joyous. He was having this physical sensation of like sadness and grief, but he still seemed joyous. And when asked about that, he says, I simply decided nothing was wrong. Well, that's fairly advanced. Okay. But he was able to step back from the bodily experience and change his narrative. Now, some of us have a fraught relationship with our bodies. There's a lot of messages about body image that we get that tell us that we're not okay. We're too fat. We're too thin. I have this belly. You may have seen it. Do you know how many messages I got all through my childhood and into my adulthood that I was not okay? That I needed to change myself somehow because of the shape of my body. Now, I go to the gym and I do Tai Chi because it makes me feel better, but I'm taking some meds that make it hard to lose weight. So we start by accepting our body as it is. And there's so much body shaming, subtly and not so subtly. I have food issues and I go to a 12-step group for that. It's absolutely heartbreaking to hear how body shaming has affected people who don't have the body that looks like the front cover of Cosmo or Gentleman's Quarterly. People have difficulty finding the path to feeling good about themselves because of the messages we get about our bodies. And we can decide whether to accept that. I decide I'm okay. I'm okay. I have some like inconvenient, like health stuff going on right now, but I'm okay. Essentially. I got stuck in the house because I hurt my leg. And let me tell you something. Even with 500 channels, television can be pretty boring. But, the body sensation of that, boredom for me feels like my back is kind of expanding and my body wants to lean forward. Impatience, if I'm impatient, it feels right here in the middle of my solar plexus. It feels like something's like pulling me forward. So I invite you to notice what your body is doing and what your body is experiencing when you're having any kind of feeling. You look at the front cover of the magazines, nobody looks like us. Right? And by the way, nobody looks like them either. Those people are airbrushed. I saw a really cool video. They took a picture of a relatively, attractive but ordinary looking woman. And they raised her, Photoshop, they raised her forehead and her neck, made her neck thinner, raised her cheekbones, pulled this in. Nobody looks like that. We get these distorted images of what the body should look like. I don't know if you watch shows like Grey's Anatomy or any of that stuff. Everybody is beautiful, right? They all look like fashion models. And the people who don't look like that, they're the ones that are in trouble and sad. Right? We get all these messages, subtle and not so subtle, that we're not okay because of the configuration of this vehicle we walk around in. And this is exactly my father's body. I mean, exactly. It's also my uncle's body, his twin. His other brother was like a head and a half taller than me and built like a soda machine. That's another thing. I had just thought of this. I had occasion a couple of years ago to go to Cincinnati and meet like a distant relative that I hadn't really met before, Maryland. We had lunch at her house. She introduced me to her son, who also has this body, right? And if you saw a picture of my father and me from behind, you couldn't tell us apart, except he had like big, he did all that chemo and still had that big bushy head of hair. And I did not inherit that. So, as you all may remember, I am always pointing towards self-compassion, starting with accepting your body the way you are now. It's not the way it is now, it's the way you are now. There's no self and other, there's you. Now, I'm also aware that, well, first let me say, none of those narratives are helpful. Okay. If you're watching, like, the anchors on the evening news, nobody actually looks like that in the real world. They don't look like that either. They're wearing enough makeup to sink a boat. We're all just normal and doing the best we can. And it's good enough. Now, I can't talk about the body without talking about trauma. Trauma lives in the body. The best book on, I was a therapist for like 20 something years. I specialized in trauma, people who, adults with childhood trauma. And the best book on that is by a guy named Bessel van der Kolk. Isn't that a great name? Called The Body Keeps the Score. The body remembers everything. And when I was in grad school taking a course on mind-body psychology, someone said, I just want to be aware of everything in my body. The teacher said, be careful what you ask for. People blank out trauma for various reasons, often for good reasons. It happens and they don't really remember it, or they remember it and they don't have any like feelings attached to it. And something triggers a body sensation and then they're right in it. Starts with the body. The trauma lives in the body. When I work with trauma survivors, they often had a bodily experience before the memory. There was a signal that a memory was about to surface. And we did some work with how to manage that and how to recenter yourself and be where you are now, and know that you're having this experience and still be in your body and okay. Because the body stores all of this, stores information. And it stores it in a place where you're not that aware of it because it's not safe to deal with it. But something happens, it's a signal from your mind to your body that it's okay and safe enough to start remembering and dealing with those experiences. For example, I worked with a woman who had a horribly traumatic experience as a teen. I'm not going to tell you what it is. And she dealt with that by getting drunk and stoned for 20 something years and eating her way to almost 400 pounds. And your body will start to fall apart after a while if you're doing that. And she got into some physical therapy for some of the symptoms, and she got sober, and then stopped like eating compulsively all day long. And after about 5 days of that, all the memories just surfaced. At some point, the body and the psyche decide that it's safe to start processing this. And it turns out that you're okay, you're just wounded. I don't believe in PTSD. I don't believe in post-traumatic stress disorder. I do believe in post-traumatic stress injury. It's not a disorder, it's an injury. But the body remembers everything. And mindfulness helps us to gently guide our way through that experience, no matter what it is. From severe trauma in childhood to the waiter is rude to your dad. I was out to lunch with my dad one time in San Francisco, and the woman screwed up the order, and he says something about it. And not only did she give him a hard time about it, but she came back to the table waving a menu at him. We didn't go back there. The memory of that sometimes makes me a little tense, like, and take a deep breath. It's all good. Which is why we breathe, why we focus on the breath. Because the body is always in the present moment, where most of the time nothing is actually happening. Now, random stuff happens, right? The car went off the road and hit a fire hydrant near me one time. And, 4 steps to my left and would have been serious. Nothing happened to me, but it jolted me. But stuff happens, but most of the time, nothing is actually happening. Sitting at home worrying about the finances, which I don't generally anymore. My mother was scared to death she was going to land in debtor's prison. I mean, huge anxiety about money. I inherited some of that. It's completely divorced from reality, right? And so was hers, because when she died, there was hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right? The body is where we live. So we can always pause and slow down our breathing. Let's do a little exercise. I'm watching the clock. I invite you to put your hand on your belly so that your pinky is right at the top of your navel. Close your eyes. Take 10 slow, deep breaths in such a way that your belly is moving your hand out. And when you get to 10, just lower your hand and open your eyes. What do you notice? Might be a little more centered. Yeah. When you slow down, go ahead. I'm sorry?
Is that the pause that the author mentions in the radical acceptance?
Yes. Yeah, that's the kind of pause she talks about. She often talks about just pause. And when you're amped up, your heart rate is up, you're breathing faster and shallower. Your adrenal system is up, and your blood pressure is up. There's one of those things that you can control. Control your breathing. When you consciously bring your attention to your breathing and slow it down, that's the signal to the rest of your system that you're actually okay. Your heart rate will come down, your adrenal system will shut off, go back to sleep, which is its normal state. Blood pressure will come back down, and you're okay. So your body is always where you are. And you can, you're in a meeting with your boss, and he or she is reminding you why you might not be doing this if they weren't paying you. You can always slow down your breathing. You're stuck in traffic and you're feeling agitated, don't close your eyes. Don't want to read about you in the paper unless you win the lottery, then you have to grease your meditation teacher. You can always slow down your breathing. So I invite you to be in your body some kindness and some gentleness, to notice when you're not, which takes a lot of practice. And be kind to yourself. Thank you for your kind attention. I realize I ran a little longer than I initially intended. I actually have 2 more pages of notes on this. Questions, comments? Unfortunately, I can't hear the people in Zoom land. So, well, thank you. If you need instructions for this sort of meditation, I have them right over here. And I have cards over here. Which
book that you like? It's a book.
Radical Acceptance.
Is that the one that you said that was good?
Yes.
It's just, I thought it was just something about the body.
The body keeps the score.
Yeah. Is that the one that you said was good? We didn't hear you.
And I said it.
That's a different book.